Cool, cool, cool. What's up, everybody? Kind of yelling because I can't tell how loud I actually am. But I'm also from the South, so I yell anyway. So really no excuse. Um, so yeah, take a good look at this face because this is probably the last time you're going to see it because I'm about to go into screen share mode, and I don't know if you can see me at the same time. So, you know, um, let me go into screen share. Share screen, and we are now sharing. Yeah. Cool. Um, yeah, guys. So today I'm going to be talking to you all about Storybook and really why I love it so much and why I just think it's one of the best things that I've run into, in a while. And kind of tell you how we use it at Major League Soccer, where I currently work as a front end engineer. Um, I kind of work on like both sides of the stack, but mainly on the front end. And what I'm not gonna do, I'm not gonna really go too much into like actually how to set up Storybook because Storybook is pretty well documented, I believe, as far as going on the Storybook website. And it's really easy to set up. But what I will do is provide a link at the end that will go to like a small project of mine that already has Storybook kind of set up, so you guys can kind of like see that and reverse engineer it or whatever. Um, so yeah, but before I even get into my storybook story, I think I kind of want to tell you guys a little bit about myself and this kind of tell you the Bryan Bethea story essentially, and just kind of about me. Um, I can say that it all started on like a dark and like gloomy night. Now I'm playing. Now I'm just setting my scene a little bit. But now I'm originally from North Carolina. Born and raised in North Carolina. Just kind of think about my childhood a little bit. I mean, my dad, like, I really never knew what my dad did for a living, which is kind of weird. I just know that he used to work like a lot of graveyard shift jobs. So when I would be coming home, he'll be going to work, and when I'll be going to school, he'd be coming home for work. So we used to always just miss each other. But my mother, on the other hand, she is a retired Cumberland County school system librarian. So now, like having a mother that essentially is a librarian, I mean, that meant my early childhood, a lot of it was spent just reading. My mother was very strict and really monitored like our media intake. So while all the childhood activities that kids were doing, like playing Nintendo and watching television, I rarely didn't get a chance to do a lot of that. Just kind of in my early childhood stages. Um, and as painful as that may sound, I mean, there were some pros about that, um, because I don't know how many of you are in the audience, but when I was younger, they had this program called the Bookie Program, and essentially what the Bookie Program is, it's this like the Cumberland County school systems, they have like a relationship with Pizza Hut, and if you read like a certain amount of books and then get them marked off by the librarian, she'll give you this coupon, and you can take the coupon and go get a free personal pan pizza. Now, I'm like a pizza connoisseur, man. Like pizza's like my thing. Like I seen you guys eating pizza earlier today. I'm like, hey man, somebody send me a slice. That's how good. Like I love pizza. That's my thing. So being that I had a mother who, was essentially like the gatekeeper of all the pizza coupons, like I was eating pizza like every other day. It was like really, really a fortunate situation. So pretty much a lot of my early childhood was spent reading and eating pizzas. So um, fast forward to like high school, you know, I was very fortunate where I was really good at football. And I ended up getting a full scholarship to play football at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. So go Tar Heels. There's me. So yeah, I had a great experience at North Carolina. I mean, that's just a whole nother talk in itself, actually. But so I did my thing there and ended up graduating. Didn't go to the league or anything like that, but I've always been really musically inclined. Like I was that kid in college whose dorm room essentially was a studio. Like I had a studio in my dorm room. Um, I decided that I wanted to pursue music. So, and that's kind of what really got me to New York, where I currently live now. Like, wanting to get into the music industry. So I got out here, and I kind of got in the industry, and I was working in the capacity of an audio engineer. And it was cool because I was seeing the people you want to see, and I was meeting the people you want to meet. I just wasn't really able to like, be stable like I wanted to be. I mean, like essentially, it's only so long you can be a starving artist. That's just what it came down to. But and I knew I wanted to transition into something, you know, and whatever that would be needed to be something that still allowed me to be creative, but you know, make a living doing so. And that's really how I got into tech, you know. Um, and the cool thing about tech, man, is just like everybody that I meet, they all had this unique story of how they got into the industry, right? And it's crazy because I try to explain it to my mom. Like up until this day, my mother, she still doesn't know what I do for a living or understand it at least. And I try to explain it to her a couple of times. And the last time I tried to explain it to her, I tried to relate to her being that she's a librarian. So, you know, and I told her, I was like, hey, mom, essentially what I do for a living, I'm a front end engineer. And I essentially write stories using code. It was funny because she looked at me with this like look on her face and like and she said something to like the effect of like boy, how the hell you gonna do something like that? And it was just like, you know, like she doesn't want to understand. But really that's where storybook really comes into play. Because see the life of a front end engineer really revolves around building and implementing new features. And like these features all have stories and unique stories of their own. And even in Storybook, a feature is actually referred to as a story. So when it comes down to it, a story is simply a dynamic visual representation of a feature's API. From a technical standpoint, I could say the power of Storybook revolves around three things: the ability to allow UI teams to build and test features in isolation. Um, it allows you to create a collection of features that can be easily implemented, like really because it's like really good user-friendly documentation, and it really enhances the design, production, and QA workflow. Now, when I say build and test features in isolation, like what does that really mean? It really means that you can build and test new features in each instance of a state without having to configure it within the constraints of a larger app. Again, what does that really mean? Well, they say pictures are worth 1,000 words, and whoever they are kind of right at this point because I think it's best that I show you all a little bit of some visuals to kind of explain my point. So we are going to go into a project that I am currently working on at Major League Soccer. So in this project, it's really already set up with Storybook. And we're going to take a look at the player head feature. So the player head feature, what is the player head feature? Let me just show you that too. So the player head feature essentially is this. It's a component that has a player's head and a number, and a jersey number. This is exactly what it sounds like. But no, this is like one of our basic small primitives that we pretty much use all over our app. You know, so this comes up everywhere within our app. Um, Going back to the code, now the player head feature. Everything that's required for this feature to actually work lives inside this player head folder. This is the environment that the feature is lives in. So when I say one of the powers of Storybook is that it allows you to build and test things in isolation, what I really mean is that hey, again, everything that's required for this feature to work lives in this folder. This player head feature is not dependent on any of these other files and folders that you see here. Like each of these other folders are their own environments of other features. Now, as opposed to if we were trying to build this player head feature within the app, we would have to basically have all this stuff wired up in some way and configured just to kind of test this player feature out. And there's no guarantee after we wire all that stuff up that we are going to keep this player head feature because things get cut all the time. So building new features and testing them out in that way is just it would be a time consuming process and just not a productive way to go about it. Storybook allows us to really do this in a really rapid way, in a really smart way. And it again allows for rapid iteration. Now, going further into this player head environment, we open up this player head folder and we have this index file. Pretty much, again, all the code that's needed for this player head feature to work is here. Like essentially, and this is all written in React, so we're all kind of familiar with React. But literally, we're writing the story of what a player head means or is here. We get to write the story here. Again, the props that we pass, that's pretty much the data. So we decided that we want the story of what this player head is. We decided that we want the jersey number to be displayed here. We decided that we want all the other props to be displayed in the way that they are. We decided that we want it to be styled in this manner. Again, we wrote this story. Now when it's time to actually publish this story that we just wrote, all we had to do was create another file and import our player head feature into there. So like such. And then at that point, we just create various instances. Oh, I can't say that word for nothing. Instances of our player head feature and just pass it data. So we created a instance of player head right here, and we decided to give it some mock data of a head size of 75 with this image. We created another instance and gave it this information. We created another instance with this information. All of these are various instances that we get to create again, which allows us to test our state and just play around with it and test this feature out to make sure it's working. But now when we want to see, what we just published, we would go into the player head, the Storybook platform. Now the Storybook platform, again, shows us all the features that all the instances of our feature that we just published. So again, we had a small player head with no jersey number, then a small one with the jersey number, medium size and large size. So all that allows us to test. Again, when I say another one of the powerful things about Storybook is that it allows us to create a collection of features, that really can be easily implemented, because again, the documentation here is just really, really user friendly. I think what I mean by that is basically, again, we have this Storybook platform, and on this Storybook platform, it archives all of the features that we create in Storybook. So again, this side you see all of these features. These are all the features that we've created so far. Well, some of them, I'm not gonna say all of them, but at Major League Soccer. But the dope thing about this is that, hey, we are essentially creating a collection here, like literally a library that keeps growing and keeps growing to the point where, hey, on the next app that we start working on, all we have to do really is just go through our library of features that we've been collecting from day one and decide, hey, which ones will suit this app here, and that's the beauty about it, because I see it in a different context of where just some of the side projects that I work on. I got my own collection of Storybook features that I could just throw into apps and play around with. Like, I just like that idea of always collecting and growing, just archive, but again, the cool thing about this is that, hey, again, I didn't create all of these features. Like, I work on a team, and I'm not even sure if I even made this player head feature, but it doesn't even matter, because the cool thing about Storybook is that just like any story, stories are told from various points of view, right? And when it comes to code, though, a different point of view can be the difference between a intuitive API or a complex API. But what Storybook does for us is makes it really where it doesn't matter who actually wrote the code, and I could care less who wrote the code, because all I need is to know how to implement this code. So, and Storybook puts all this in a real, suited way where it makes it that much simple for me to be able to use it. So again, for instance, looking at the player head feature, despite what the code may be, I care less. All I know is that, hey, a player head feature looks like this, and this is all the data that it takes. These are the props that it takes. So I can call any of these features, despite if I made them or not, and just give it the data that it's looking for. That's how simple it is to really, like Storybook makes it for us to be able to collaborate amongst our team. It allows for that type of collaboration. And again, it's just so put together where it's simple for me to just plug and play a lot of these features. Another powerful thing about Storybook, see, when it comes to stories, a lot of stories are told in different ways. Some stories are told through music, some stories are told through literature, and some stories are told through movies even. But all good conventional stories go through 5 stages of um they go through 5 stages, right? And these stages are, the exposition stage, which is usually like the setting of the scene, as an action stage, which is like the building of the tension. A lot of tension comes into this part of stage of development of a story. Then there's the climax stage, which is usually the excitement, the falling action, line up of loose ends. Then last but not least, the resolution stage, which is the ending of the story. At Major League Soccer, when we talk about a features development story, it goes through the same process essentially. For instance, the exposition stage of a new features story usually starts with the dev team. I mean, the design team. And design at this part, they're setting the scene because they are really defining the requirements and the specs that this new feature needs to have, and even providing us with visuals. After the new feature goes through that process, it then becomes and goes into like the rise of action. So, and right here is where the actual engineers get a hold of it. This is where I get a hold of it. And I'm trying to decide on a logical solution. Really does get suspenseful, and no guarantee that we're going to find a solution. I mean, there's been many of cases where we said, "Hey, man, we can't do this because just can't make this feature happen," and that happens here. After a feature gets past that part of its stage of development, climax part, and again, if we decided that we're going to go forward with this feature, then right here during this phase, there's usually a coded solution. So that's kind of exciting. We actually got a solution, and it can really make it app, So yes, there is some excitement at this point. After this stage, then it gets into the fall in action of things. Now, for us at Major League Soccer, this is where when we kind of take it back to visual QA. And we pretty much allow our design team to kind of visual QA this stuff. And, this is where they get the top loose ends. So they can say, hey, man, can you change this color a little bit? Or can you add a little more padding right here? Can you change the margins and things of that nature? They're really to top all loose ends. And last but not least, I mean, like if it gets past all those other stages, we have a happy ending story because it's actually in app. So this feature went through all those same stages within its own development story as a real story happens, But now looking at that from like a software point of view, it kind of explains the process for you all. I mean, again, our designers, they usually build everything out. So Sketch, and from Sketch, they translate. They Sketch was I can't even talk to you about Sketch, but all I know after Sketch, it ends up in Zeppelin. Zeppelin is a really great tool because it allows our UI team, our UX team, to really, in terms of React, like they give us their specs and their requirements in React code. So that's a great thing. So it allows us to collaborate and speak the same language. As a developer, I get it from my designers within Zeppelin, and it's already coded out a little bit in terms of styling of what it needs in React, and then, after I get it in Zeppelin, I start coding it out. We start coding it out in Storybook. Now, where Storybook really streamlines and really helps, fine tune this whole workflow is because, if Storybook wasn't right here, we would be coding all this stuff again in app. And that process is just a really painful process. It's not just, in my opinion, it's not a good way to go about build things so again, Storybook really helps streamline this whole process for us. But yeah, after we get past Storybook, it goes to Visual QA. At the Visual QA, once passing that, we update our packages with npm, and essentially things go out the app. So that's essentially, from a software point of view, our whole workflow right now. And again, one thing that I want to bring up as well is that one of the cool things about Storybook, being that it allows us to archive a lot of features and just have a library on hand. Again, that's the whole idea of, when you talk about React and you talk about reusable components and things of that nature. That's essentially what we're building, a whole library of reusable components. Again, I really I'm in love with this whole aspect, this whole concept of that, because I really see it for a lot of applications. So yeah, pretty much. I guess I could say like the power of Storybook for me. I mean, it really does allow me to kind of relive some of my childhood again, being that like I'm like the son of a librarian and whatnot. But again, me trying to explain to my mother what I do, she still wouldn't even understand. I don't think if I try to explain it to her saying storybook type terms and stuff. But pretty much all I wanted to kind of talk to you all about, and really just kind of encourage you all like to kind of experiment with Storybook and within your own workflows, within your own teams, and kind of see if it can help you guys out. Because even at Major League Soccer, we wasn't always using Storybook, but when we started using it, it made things a lot smoother for us. So yeah, I mean, I'm open for any questions at this point. I mean, I'm not sure if I can answer everything, but if I can't,
right. They're coming. All right. Here.
I have never seen Storybook before, other than maybe watching a video online of how it works. So that was really awesome. Thank you very much. My question is, the feature that you showed us had as props an image and like a jersey number. And I'm wondering, in the case of like other reusable components, maybe more structural, like let's say a grid that you want to put stuff in or something like that. Does that also work with Storybook? Like, can you do stuff that's a little bit more structural and not so presentational, or does that not work as well?
As complex as you need, like a majority of it. Let me show you though. Can you guys see my screen right now still? Are you guys still seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, you can really get as you can do anything you can do in app in Storybook. That's the power of it. Again, in my opinion. So let's look at the oh man, like our modal right here. Again, this is our one of our modals that we use. And I could, I didn't build this. One of my teammates built it, but I know how it works. Oh yeah, we use Harambe for everything. We just fell in love with Harambe. So that's like this is all over our app pretty much. This, but yeah, in terms of getting like really structural and things of that nature, like you can get any way you need to be. Like you can do whatever you need to do in Storybook. So whatever you can do in app, you can do in Storybook. We got some more complex things, but the way that we started off building our library, we started off with building all of our primitives first. And our primitives are essentially the smallest basic components that, or features, whatever you want to call them, that we need to start building larger ones. So like again, so there's no, like once we start building out our bigger features, they are essentially a bunch of our primitives combined together. You know what I mean?
Great. More questions? Oh, sorry. You still going? You good, Brian?
Sorry.
Oh, okay. More questions? Anybody have more questions? Yeah. Hey, Brian, can you put your last slide up with your info? Yeah.
Oh yeah, guys, hit me up. Yeah. If you guys have any questions, I'm like that guy, man. You can always ask me questions on Twitter. I would be happy to point you in the direction if I don't know. And even if there's some like, because I really like speaking from a code newbie standpoint. I essentially am a code newbie, so and I'm always willing to like, man, like there are a lot of people trying to go down that same path. So if you got any questions in terms of that, I mean, definitely hit me up. I'll give you my advice and some of my experiences. So yeah.
Oh, do you have the link to the project that you're talking about to get started with Storybook?
Let me oh yeah, you know what? Damn it. I might not. Hold up. Let me give you back to you later on. Yeah, I don't think I put it on my slide.
That sounds good. I can I'll publish publish stuff in the meetup notes. Or the meetup
Yeah, that'd be great.
Any more questions for Brian? Great. I think that'll do it, unless you have anything else you want to show us, Bryan.
Very excited and want to say thank you all for having me. We are on a very different time difference. And so yeah, I'm probably I gotta go to sleep. Nah, but definitely, man, I appreciate you all's time though. Definitely. Thank you.